You're listening to the Otis Jiry channel.
Chapter 7. The Poisoning. The professor paused at the paintings as if convinced their detail may hold a clue, or perhaps it was just wishful thinking. He knocked on the abbot's study door, remembering the state he was in the morning after he arrived. "Come in, Professor," called the abbot from within. The small dining table had a centerpiece of chicken, surrounded by a few side dishes of vegetables, and 2 bottles of white wine on a floral lace-edged tablecloth. "The evening staff did a good job, don't you think, Professor?" "They certainly did. It looks delicious." "Well, I hope you're hungry after your long walk." "I will definitely enjoy this. Pull up a chair and tell me how you got into the psychiatry business." "Well, my father was a brilliant botanist, but as a child I noticed he wasn't entirely happy, and often shut himself away from the rest of the family. Of course, as a child I thought he was avoiding me for some unknown reason, but as I got older and became interested in botany myself, we became very much closer, and it was then I began to realize he was deeply troubled by something. And one day I found him in his study with his head in his hands, gently sobbing to himself. I immediately rushed over to ask what was the matter. Must have been about 14. It was then he confided in me that he felt his work wasn't good enough, not as perfect as he felt it should have been. He worked a lot at home on research projects for an agricultural company keen to produce hybridized plants which would be disease-resistant and higher yielding, and he was good at it, producing a number of significant scientific papers on the subject based on field trials. However, he always felt they could have been better and dwelt on this worry. "Were you able to help him realize that his work was worthwhile?" "I tried, but it was then that I needed to know more about his condition, his state of mind, and started to read up on psychiatry. It became an all-consuming obsession for me to try and help my father out of his unnecessary misery. It was far more important to me to understand his mind, to perhaps enable me to find a way to see him happy and content, more important than the botany." "That was very admirable of you. Did you succeed?" "Unfortunately not. I just saw him deteriorate whilst understanding why in psychiatric terms. It was frustrating and heartbreaking. He could never accept that his work was excellent. He was always striving to be better, despite the adverse effect it was having on him and his family. We just watched him change from the worse and eventually became bedridden. So it was then I decided I would stick with psychiatry in the hope I may be able to help others out of their misery." "That is such a sad story. I am so sorry." To the professor, the abbot was clearly moved, but he had other things on his mind. He opened a bottle and poured out 2 glasses of wine, and then proceeded to wrench off the 2 greasy chicken legs with unusual vigor, offering one to the professor. "Please excuse fingers. Help yourself to the vegetables." The professor was starving by now and tucked into the generous meal he had before him. The abbot continued, "What happened to your father? Did he have to give up his prestigious career?" "He died, and I've never gotten over it, Abbot." "Tragic. It must have proved to be a very worthy career for you. Were you able to help others as you had hoped?" "I did. Many people. People who could easily have become like my father, but new medication became available which was a great help, just as long as they didn't have too much of it. Will you excuse me for a minute? I must go to the bathroom." "Through the door by my trusty old lectern," he pointed. Professor Benson kneeled over and fell headlong into a kaleidoscope maelstrom of disturbing images, his senses overwhelmed by the onslaught of a deafening cacophony generated by the miasmic essence injected into his chicken. His poison induced terrifying, vivid dreams, and noisy nightmares now became his reality as he mentally fought to deal with them. Cascading images slid insidiously into his unconsciousness and manifested themselves as if all his memories of a lifetime's nightmares and real-life terror experiences were available to him, awaiting their turn, uninvited, to reenact their twisted visions. The powerful essence of Vril heightened this mental experience to a level far greater than that of true reality, a supercharged surreality. Remembered anxiety states overwhelmed his inner senses and applied themselves in a myriad of permutations to torment his raw, naked, unsusceptible mind, denying him control as the evil abbot stood watching him from the doorway.